Members of the public are advised that the meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and a live stream and video recording will be made publicly available on YouTube and Council's website. Nilamic Shire Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. We'd also like to pay respect to elders both past and present, and extend that respect to other First Nation people present. Councillor Stockman is going to read the Good Governance Pledge.
Thank you, Mayor. As councillors, we are mindful of our civic responsibilities and obligations. We pledge to take them seriously and to carry them out with diligence and integrity. We know the decisions we take will affect the people and environment of Nilamic, now and in the future. We undertake, therefore, to make sound and principled decisions of lasting value in a spirit of fairness and for the good of all. We also pledge to serve the needs and well-being of the community and the environment in an open and honest manner and to the best of our abilities.
Thanks, Councillor Stockman. Next we have the prayer, and we've got Father Stephen Ridjo who's come in for us tonight. Just a few words about Stephen. In January 2017, on the request of Archbishop Hart, the parishes of Sacred Heart, Diamond Creek, St Thomas the Apostle and St Thomas the Apostle, Greensborough North, were partnered with the parish of St Mary's in Greensborough. Father Stephen Ridjo was appointed as a parish priest of all three parishes. The Catholic community in Melbourne is made up of a rich tapestry of people of all ages, cultures and backgrounds. They are united by their faith and love for God and neighbour. Their goal is to foster spirit-led community which responds to the needs of its people and neighbours, to live out their mission and vision of becoming a vibrant Christian community which proclaims the gospel and strives to be the face of Christ in the world. So thank you, Father.
So we pray. Wise and loving Father, thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. We are grateful for your many and abundant blessings. We thank you for life itself, for the measure of health that we need to fulfill our callings. We come before you in gratitude for sustenance, for friendship, and for the responsibilities we've been given for one another. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honour of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thanks as well for the freedom to embrace you or the freedom to reject you. Thank you for loving us even so from your boundless and gracious nature. In the scriptures you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you've established those very authorities to promote peace, order and justice. Therefore I pray for our Mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, especially in this time of coronavirus, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives and joy in their tasks. Empower them to be ministers of your peace and reconciliation. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Give them an assurance of what will please you and what will benefit those who live and work in the Nilamic Shire. It is in your blessed name I pray. Amen. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Father. Next on the agenda is item number 6, presentations. There are no presentations. Confirmation of minutes. And I'll come back to apologies. Mayor. I'll come back to apologies, but we'll do confirmation of minutes and I'll come back.
I'm happy to move the motion of confirmation of minutes.
As per the papers?
As per the papers.
Yep. Thanks, Councillor Payne. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Eyre. Any discussion on the minutes? No? we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. And sorry about that, and back to apologies. Item number 5.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to move that the apology from Councillor Natalie Duffy be noted.
Thanks, Councillor Egan. Do we have a second to Councillors? Councillor Ramcharan. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd just like to, I'm sure Natalie's listening tonight, and I'd just like to wish her all the best. I saw her this afternoon in another Zoom and she looked incredibly tired, and she needs to take some time and look after herself. So all the best, Natalie, from all of us.
Thanks, Councillor Egan. Other councillors will put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried. Unanimous. Next on the agenda is disclosure of conflicts of interest, and I have one to declare. Councillors, one of the items tonight, tender report contract 2021/059, essential safety measures in auditing council facilities. I'm declaring conflict of interest. I'm employed by the parent company of one of the tenderers, so at that point I'll step out of the room and ask the Deputy Mayor to take the chair for that item. No other councillors, no other conflicts, councillors? That being the case, we'll move on to petitions. There are nil petitions. We've got a couple of questions from the gallery, and I'll read them out. Gilla Schnapp asks the following questions. Question 1. Why was there not a separate engagement process whereby the new municipal planning strategy was exhibited and submissions called for? So Gilla, the new MPS will be prepared with alignment to a community engagement program that will be undertaken later this year. So it will happen. Question 2. Can the public be heard on this new strategy prior to its adoption in June 2021? So Gilla, early community engagement on the MPS has been integrated with Our People, Our Place, Our Future work. Outcomes of the Our People, Our Place, Our Future survey, along with the outcomes of the survey for the Climate Action Plan, will form the basis for the draft that will be subject to consultation to be undertaken in August through to October 2021. So a proposed amendment to the planning scheme to implement a new MPS is anticipated in late 2021, early 2022, where the amendment would be subject to full exhibition and notification. Esther Caspi has a couple of questions. Esther asks, firstly, in the draft revenue and rating plan currently on exhibition for submissions due May 30, there is a definition of other land under differential rates in page 4. Other land, however, is not included in the proposed rating system. Type or class of land rate in the dollar on page 5. Does council have another agenda for this land, which I understand is all unoccupied, vacant land and all rural and conservation zones? No, Esther. Council does not have another agenda for this land. The differential rating structure is as per the draft budget document. Esther's second question is, as the adoption of the new community engagement policy coincided with Our People, Our Place, Our Future, could there please be further public consultation to inform and modify both the council plan and the new municipal planning strategy prior to both drafts being exhibited, which I understand the MPS is replacing Nilamic's current municipal strategic statement, MSS, which refers to Nilamic Council's local planning scheme. So as to early community engagement on the MPS was integrated with Our People, Our Place, Our Future work. Outcomes of Our People, Our Place, Our Future survey report, along with the outcomes of the survey for Climate Action Plan, will form a basis of the draft that will be subject to consultation to be undertaken in August through to October 2021. No additional consultation is proposed to be undertaken between the recently completed Our People, Our Place, Our Future engagement, the Climate Action Plan engagement and the draft MPS. A proposed amendment to the planning scheme to implement a new MPS is anticipated in late 2021, early 2022, where the amendment would be subject to full exhibition and notification, in brackets ARI consultation, providing an additional round of consultation to the aforementioned engagement being undertaken to inform the amendment. That was a mouthful, but Yeah, hopefully you got all that, Gilla and Esther. Thank you for your questions. We'll move on to reports of advisory committees. The first is the advisory committee report of 25th of May. Looking for a motion. Councillor Amtran.
Yes, I'd like to move that the minutes of the advisory committee meetings be noted.
Thanks, Councillor Amtran. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Payne. Do you have any discussion, councillors?
No.
Right. I'll put Councillor Eyre, you should speak. Yep.
Just quickly, I just wanted to say that I'm inspired by the type of ideas that came out of an activity that was held with the Youth Council if you were mayor for the day, and I just hope that some of those ideas are able to be fulfilled.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. If there's no other councillors, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And it's carried unanimously. The next agenda item is reports of special committees, of which there are none. We're now on to Our People, Our Place, Our Future Summary Report, Integrated Community Engagement. And looking for a motion.
Yes, I would like to move the motion. I'll just sort myself out here. That Council receives and notes the results of the Our People, Our Place, Our Future Summary Report. 2, makes the summary report available to the public on Council's website and promotes access to the summary report via social media channels. And 3, requests that officers thank participants who provided contact details and advise them where to access the summary report.
And 4.
Oh, there's more. And 4, to note that further analysis of the engagement data will be used over the coming months to develop the community vision, the council plan, the financial plan, municipal public health and wellbeing plan, and municipal planning strategy in accordance with the individual document requirements required by legislation.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Amtran. Councillor Payne, do you wish to speak to the motion?
All I want to say is that I would like to thank Jeremy Livingston and his team for the mountain of work that they've had to do to put Our People, Our Place, Our Future together. It is something that is required as a statutory duty of the state, but they've done it with a great deal of energy and good nature, and the community have been terrific in listening to us, because we've come back for more again and again. Give us more, give us more. And they're very patient about this. So I just want to thank the council officers, Jeremy's team, and the community for having us tug on their sleeve again and again and ask for more information.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Councillor Amtran, you wish to speak to the motion?
Look, just to thank everybody who took part and had their say. I attended one of the pop-ups in St Andrews at St Andrews Market, and just to see the way the officers were with everybody who came along, it was fantastic, and really good at engaging both the kids and the parents who came past and getting some really good input from them. And yeah, look, we know we haven't got input from all the demographics we'd like. There's definitely in the younger age bracket, there are or the young adult age bracket, we're missing some data, but that's okay. We're collecting that through other means, and we'll make sure that we collect input from that group in another way. So I think what we've got here is really good, and looking forward to seeing where we go with the plans that come out of it.
Thanks, Councillor Amtran. Any other councillor? Yeah, look, just to sum up, I think, probably the one pager at the back is very, very useful for me as a summary. A couple of things I just draw out of that. Council Finances, people said we need to spend more money on environment, parks and open space, recreation and leisure, waste and recycling, and spend less on customer service and corporate support, governance and debt servicing. In the council asset area, so we need to spend more on parks, open spaces and streetscapes, more on footpaths and cycleways, more on recreational, leisure and community facilities, and less on land improvements, roads and buildings. There's a lot more in that one-page summary, but I think, for people at home, if you have got access to the agenda, and certainly this will be on the website, that's a really good one-page summary. To have a look at that. If there's nothing else, councillors, I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried. It's unanimous again. The next item is final draft of the Yarra Strategic Plan for endorsement. I'm looking, Councillor Amtran, do you have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move that Council adopts the Yarra Strategic Plan in Attachment 1, subject to the edits identified by Melbourne Water in Attachment 2.
Thanks, Councillor Amtran. And a seconder? Councillor Eyre. Councillor Amtran.
I'd just like to read out a quote that was sent to me by Warwick Leeson, who is the president of the Yarra River Keepers Association and also a member of the Birrarung Council, and both of those groups were heavily involved in the drafting of the plan. And Warwick writes, "If the coronavirus lockdown has taught us anything, it is that the people of Melbourne and Victoria love their outdoors, their parks, gardens and waterways, and the recreational opportunities that they afford us. Utilising one of the original 4 legitimate reasons for venturing outside our homes for the purpose of exercise, Melburnians in extraordinary numbers walked, ran and cycled through, around and along our parks, gardens and waterways. We did so in a manner that highlighted our deep respect and appreciation of these facilities. It is also clearly demonstrated the importance that such parks, gardens and waterways have on our physical and mental health and well-being. The challenges facing all of us who care about the long-term health and well-being of the Yarra River are daunting. They, nonetheless, provide us with an exciting opportunity to make a real change. This opportunity to alter the trajectory of the health of the Yarra River will not come again, at least not in our lifetimes. The report by the Victorian Commissioner of Environmental Sustainability shows that 17 of the 25 environmental indicators are deteriorating. The trajectory is sharply downwards. This is what the Yarra Strategic Plan must address." So that's from Warwick Leeson, who's been heavily involved in the writing of the plan. I'll just read out something else that I saw written in the plan which really stood out to me. And it says, "To the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people, the river is known as the Birrarung, meaning river of mists and shadows. It is the sacred lifeblood of country, providing food, water and meeting places, as well as being a central element in their cultural, economic and spiritual life. The role of the river has been captured and carried in oral memory for tens of thousands of years." So that comes out of the Wurundjeri foreword that is in the plan, and I think it's really good to see that there. And it's fantastic that Melbourne Water have worked so closely with the Wurundjeri in drafting this plan. It's clear that there have been challenges to the river ever since colonisation occurred in Australia. In the early years, we saw land clearing and sewerage having a big impact, and now it's pollution, litter, development by the river, climate change, invasive species, and the list goes on. So this plan will help us protect the biodiversity of the water and the surrounding ecosystems, and eventually the sea that the water flows into. The parks and gardens that are around the Yarra benefit from being by it and will also benefit from the outcomes of this plan. And I think here in Nilamic, we're quite lucky to have Bend of Islands, which is a biodiversity haven, which recharges the river and helps recharge its biodiversity before it flows through the rest of our green wedge and eventually into the city and then out into sea. So the plan really is relevant to us as a council and to our community, and we really need to support its implementation. So it doesn't just stop today once we've passed the motion. We've actually got to play an ongoing role to make sure that the plan is executed here. It's been a lot of work to get to this stage by Melbourne Water, so I'd like to thank them. I'd like to thank the Victorian Government, the Wurundjeri, the members of the Birrarung Council, and all the other groups who have been involved for collaborating so closely on this plan. And just to finish by saying that I think Warwick is right. This is a rare opportunity, and I think I'm so glad to be supporting this today so we can have a plan to protect our Yarra long into the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Amtran. Councillor Eyre, did you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to say that it allows for local authorities and traditional owners to work collaboratively and emphasises the rights and aspirations of the traditional custodians of the Birrarung And we are very, very lucky to have local passionate residents part of the Yarra River Keeper Association in our community. And I want to thank them all for their hard work. And I've also got some words here from Warwick Leeson as well that I want to read out. The Yarra Strategic Plan is not intended to examine a block-by-block study of properties along the river, but rather to view the river holistically in order to arrive at an outcome that delivers significant benefits, firstly to the Burrarong and secondly to the greater community good. The Act specifically envisions the Yarra River as one single living entity, and that special consideration be given to our First Persons through cultural recognition. And I think that sums it up as well. So I think that it's great that we've got so many different key stakeholders working together to protect our river. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Look, unfortunately, I haven't been supplied with any words by Warwick Leeson, but I did get the opportunity to listen to him for quite a while at two volunteer appreciation events just last week. Two, a lunchtime and an evening one. So Warwick was there for both of them, and Warwick's a former two-timing mayor. He's certainly not on council anymore, but he certainly does find his way into the room on occasion. We're sorry you can't be here with us tonight, Warwick, but no doubt you're watching this, and please have a good evening. We'll put that to motion to the vote. All those in favour? It's unanimous. The next item is adoption of the budget 21-22, declaration of rates and charges. And
Yes.
Councillor
I
Payne.
would like to move the motion that Council Number 1, having considered the submissions received, adopts the proposed 21-22 budget. Number 2, the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to give public notice of the decision to adopt the budget and to submit a copy of the adopted budget to the Minister for Local Government. 3, the amount of rates and charges intended to be raised are A, an amount of 69.499 million or such greater amount as is lawfully levied as a consequence of this recommendation being adopted, be declared as the amount which Council intends to raise by general rates and annual service charge described later in this recommendation. The amount declared is calculated as follows. 1, general rates at 58,780,166. The annual service charge of $10,719,059.
Councillor Payne,
Yep.
it's 4 pages of
Oh,
motion.
in that case,
Did you want
as written, as very much written,
Yep.
and which will be presented as written. Great.
Seconded by Councillor Egan, and back to you, Councillor Payne.
Just wanted to reiterate that I wanted to thank Vince Lombardi and his team for the giant amount of work that they've done to put this together. A draft budget, any financial papers for keeping the council going in any 6-month, 12-month or 10-year period is a difficult task, and they've done a great job. We are a responsible council, and that's the promises that we have made to our residents, that we will be responsible with the not giant amount of money that we can get from our rates, and that we intend to be careful with that money and to protect what we have. Our rates are high, but so is our standard of living, and the green wedge is something that we consider to be valuable and very much worth it. Are we borrowing money? Yes, we are. There's a reason for that. We have rehabilitation services to do, and we need to have a council able to respond to the possibility of grants. So that's why we're borrowing the money. But we also remain within the Auditor General's low risk range on indebtedness. So I think it's a measure of the responsibility of the council officers and hopefully this council to be careful with its funds. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Councillor Egan, do you wish to speak? Any other councillor wishing to speak to the motion? Councillor Eyre.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out some of the items in here that Councillor Ramcharan and I worked hard on, which was the Ingram Roads traffic management, and that was $80,000 going towards that, and the research toilet works, which is $180,000. So I think research is certainly on the map now. Yeah. So I just wanted to point those out, which is really exciting. And also I wanted to comment too that last week we received feedback saying that why was the budget not put out with the council plan, and we heard that strongly, but to point out that only 6 of 79 councils actually did put their budget and council plan together, so we're not in the minority here. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. No other councillors wishing to speak? I might just say just a couple of words on borrowings. That certainly a significant amount of loan borrowings, $7 million proposed for the next financial year. And importantly, like those borrowings don't need to be taken out, but having them in the budget allows council that possibility. If they're not in the budget, we certainly can't borrow the money. But $5 million for the rehabilitation of closed landfill sites in response to and compliance to the regulations requirements set by the EPA, and that specifically is around the Kangaroo Grand landfill, or the Kangaroo Grand tip, former tip. You know, I've been on successive councils. This is my 4th council, and I think every council has kicked this can down the road in terms of, you know, we have to do it one day, one day, but not many councils have had the courage to actually go and say, well, now's the time, we actually have to do it. We have to unlock the value of this land, return it back to community. It's fenced off at the moment, and you know, the intent is to return that back to, you know, public open space or to land that can be used by the Nilamic rate base. And we've got $2 million set aside to enable council to respond to the potential government grant funding opportunities. So whilst there are some opportunities which are not tied to you know, one-for-one contributions or even more from council, the reality is that most are. And you know, if we want to have a piece of the pie in terms of stimulus money being offered, we do need to have the ability to draw down on some money to put in our share as well. So that's what that $2 million is about. It doesn't mean that council is going to borrow $2 million, but certainly it can, and it allows us to take advantage of any grant opportunities. You know, we look over the last 5 years, the state government, just the state government alone, have contributed about $37 million in grant funding to Nilamic. I'm not sure of the federal government amount, certainly a lot less, but certainly significant support from the federal government as well. And you know, if we've got, if we can't pay for our share of grants, we simply can't apply for the grant. So I certainly support it. Interest rates are low, and we're certainly not the only local government or level of government that are borrowing during these times to get us through. It is for capital work, so council, there's enough rates raised to business as usual per se. For there's no reduction of services offered from Nilamic, and we're certainly not forecasting, you know, a decrease in staff or changes to service levels. So I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the Audit and Risk Committee meeting of May 2021. I'm looking for a motion. Councillor Eyre.
The council notes the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on the 12th of May 2021 in attachment 1.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Amtran. Councillor Eyre, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Only to say that the Audit and Risk Committee, I've been to, I think, 2 of their meetings now, and they're very thorough when reviewing all the reports. Obviously, we would expect that, but I have found the way they discuss and look at things really thoughtful, and I can see that they certainly have council and community at the forefront when they're looking through all of the documents.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Councillor Amtran. Any other councillor? I'll just echo the comments there by Councillor Eyre. Certainly, yeah, the independent members especially, they're particularly thorough, and not only are they reviewing the documents, they're making really, really worthwhile suggestions, sort of thing, which officers are very good at acting upon. You know, I've been on council a number of years, but it's only been recently that I've been attending the Audit and Risk Committee meetings, and certainly will too for the rest of my time on council. I think it's a great way to just have that bit of a deeper dive into how council operates that sometimes we don't always see as councillors, but attending the Audit and Risk Committee is very, very worthwhile, and I encourage everyone to come along to that meeting as often as you can in terms of councillors. If that's the end of the discussion, I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? And it's carried unanimously. The Quarterly Risk and Safety Report, March 2021, is next on the agenda. Councillor Eyre, give motion.
The Council notes the summary of the confidential quarterly risk and safety report for the March 2021 quarter, and 2, resolves that the attached report in Attachment 1 remains confidential in accordance with Section 3(1)(a) and F of the Local Government Act 2020.
Do we have a seconder, councillors? Councillor Payne? I was going to give Councillor Egan a chance, but she was just scratching her head. Next time. Councillor Eyre? No, Councillor Payne? We'll put that, if there's no other councillor wishing to speak, we'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Against, it's unanimous. Probably didn't even need to call for against. The Nilamic Pandemic Recovery Plan is next. Looking for a motion. Councillor Stockman.
Thank you. I'd like to move the motion that council accepts the officer's recommendations as per the papers.
Thanks, Councillor Stockman. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Amtran. Councillor Stockman.
Yes, I'd just like to thank 2 groups. Firstly, the Nilamic public. I think we're very resilient and just being very supportive of one another. It's a very caring community. And the other group is council officers. It's a very complex and fluid plan, so yeah, well done to the officers. And just like to say that if everyone can just look out for their fellow person.
Thanks, Councillor Stockman. Councillor Amtran.
I'd also like to thank the Health and Wellbeing Advisory Committee who helped give input into this. Often with these sorts of plans, we go out for the first stage of consultation, which we did with this one. We had the Together in Nilamic survey, which helped us get an idea of how COVID was impacting our community, and the plan was written out of that. But usually we'd go out for a second round of community consultation. We haven't been able to do that this time because of timelines. Ideally we would, but having the Health and Wellbeing Advisory Committee there helping to give that input was really valuable, and it was a great substitute, and we actually had some really good, valuable changes made to that plan as a result of that process. So I'd like to thank them for their input as well.
Thanks, Councillor Antran. Any other councillor? Just my comments are, as you know, when I first read it, I certainly did believe it to be a very good plan, and officers have done a good job. It would have just been the cherry on the cake, I think, to put it out for a month of consultation, put the draft plan out so people could provide the feedback. Given that the consultation that we did originally do was really to inform the plan, and community haven't yet had a chance to look at the draft plan. That being said, we do need to get on with endorsing the plan. It's certainly been implemented anyway. Officers have worked hard in terms of recovery over the last 12 months, and this is ongoing. There'll certainly be the opportunity for people to respond to this plan. Even though we're adopting it now, we can certainly make changes as required into the future, and certainly the pandemic recovery will have to go well beyond 22, and realistically we could still even be in the response phase up until that time. We don't know what lies ahead in a lot of ways, but my message would be for community to have a good look at this plan. Let us know if there's any glaring omissions or things that should have been included and haven't, and we'll seek to do that. If there's no other comments, councillors, we'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimous. So that we're about halfway through. Next we have the Nilamic, or the Amendment 135 nil, the Planning Policy Framework Transition. I'm looking for a motion. Councillor Ramtran.
Yes, I'd like to move that Council notes the process to introduce Amendment C135 nil to the Nilamic Planning Scheme will be undertaken by the Minister for Planning pursuant to Section 24 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 to requests officers to draft and consult on a revised municipal planning strategy and undertake an amendment to the Nilamic Planning Scheme following endorsement of the MPS. And 3, directs officers to make the tracked changed and final amended material available on the Nilamic website.
Thanks, Councillor Ramtran. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Payne. Back to you, Councillor Ramtran.
Yes, look, I think this project is just one of those extremely complicated things that is beyond the expertise of most people in the room. We don't actually have anyone from the planning department in the room today. I believe that's a COVID thing. But it's beyond the expertise of anyone in this room. So I'm really grateful to have had our planning officers putting so much work into this. The changes are supposed to be policy neutral, so that's why there's no consultation on this amendment. And we don't really have a choice. We have to push ahead with this. It is a state government requirement for us to rework our planning scheme. And in the end, we hope it will have a good outcome. It will make the planning scheme easier to read and more accessible to the wider community, and easier for our planning officers and planning officers at other organisations such as VCAT to take real meaning from the planning scheme. We did get a few concessions from DELP during the process. There were a few things in there that didn't really go in the favour of our green wedge that our officers picked up on, which we believed weren't necessarily policy neutral, and DELP have been really good in helping to rework that. So we end up with basically something that will have the same effect as the existing planning scheme, but it's much shorter and much easier to understand. So the next step is to create our municipal planning strategy, which will replace the existing municipal strategic statement. The municipal planning strategy will be shorter, and it is expected by a number of planners that the MPS will carry more weight than the existing municipal strategic statement does. So that means if we go to VCAT, we will be able to rely more on the MPS than we've been able to in the past. And that's going to be really helpful because we can actually set a vision for our shire, for our green wedge areas, for our urban areas that really fits in with what we want and what our community wants. And that will actually form something that will be semi-enforceable, which is a really positive thing. So I'm looking forward to ending up with a municipal planning strategy that's much stronger than the municipal strategic statement we have, and something that protects what we value and love about the area where we live. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ramtran. Councillor Payne?
Just wanted to reiterate Councillor Ramtran's statement of support. I particularly want to thank Rosa Zazoulis and Lynn Northwood for their ability to go through something line by line that would be a mountain of work for most of us. And they have at every turn sought to protect the Green Wedge and Nilamic as a shire, and we thank them for that. This is not just a matter of sweeping a bunch of old rules into one spot. It's about sifting through and making this the strongest and most robust planning scheme it can be. And I just want to thank them for that.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Any other councillor wishing to speak to the motion? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. The next is the Victorian Electoral Commission, the Nilamic Shire Council election report. Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that Council notes the 2020 Nilamic Shire Council election report as per the papers.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Eyre. Councillor Egan.
Now, just a few interesting facts and figures. Again, as everybody I know in the room especially is aware, we had another postal vote, and our enrolled voters is now up to 48,101. So it's a little bit over 2/3 of our population in the Shire. And an interesting stat, 79 candidates, so one for each of the shires in Victoria, in Nilamic, with Sugarloaf having the most Wingrove 18, and Alice the least with 3. The other interesting stat is that we're above the state averages in most things, so that includes voter participation, which is up about 7% from the state average, from 82 in the 2016 election up to just under 90%, which is pretty amazing, as is our turnout, which is 81%. Again, that's up about 8% over the state average, but it's also up 8% from us. It was actually 7% of the state average. And the informal voting was basically the same. So some interesting stats and figures. Probably not something that the normal resident was really interested, except councillors sitting in the room and the other 72 people who missed out. So that's about all I want to say.
Thanks, Councillor Regan. Councillor Eyre. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Look, I'll just sort of say, it probably wasn't reflected in many of the photos because most people did pretty well, but I remember taking the photo of myself in lockdown, and I ended up looking like Mr. Potato Head, and it's probably the worst photo I've ever seen of myself, but I've only got myself to blame for that. I noticed Councillor Payne, we didn't get to see your photo at all, but it didn't seem to affect the result terribly much. Yeah, lots of candidates, 79 over 7 councils, an average of 11. And what I've noticed on council, this being my 4th term, is there's been a successive decrease in the number of candidates in Alice Ward, and only 3 this time. So if we can keep that trend moving in the right direction, I'd be most grateful. Certainly, it helps to. I think there's far less informal voting with less candidates. You certainly makes it easier for people, I think, and the more runners that people have, the more runners that are put up against them. So I think there's a message there for one and all, and perhaps just try to get yourself elected without trying to get other people elected and then pushing their votes towards you. But that's the system that pertains, and it's a good result for all of us, and we're certainly a good council. So if there's nothing else, I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? And it's carried unanimously. The next item is the expert panel's comprehensive review of Victoria's building system, the framework for reform. Looking for a motion, Councillor Payne.
Yes, I would like to move the motion that Council 1 submits the council submission to the state government in response to the expert panel's review of Victoria's building system in relation to the framework for reform discussion paper before the 27th of May 2021, and 2 places council submission to the state government in response to the expert panel's review of Victoria's building system in relation to the framework for reform discussion on the council's website.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ramcharan. Councillor Payne.
Don't have a lot to say about this except once again to thank council officers, particularly Miran Kadamola, who is heading up this, working with Rosa on fixing up a lot of reforms that were desperately needed in a building and development industry that needs more regulation. And obviously this is a shire very tightly attuned to building development and making sure that people comply with the rules. And good luck to them, and let's hope that they come up with a system that is fair and clear and accountable.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Councillor Ramcharan.
Yes, I'd also like to thank officers, and just to say that I think this tells a story about privatisation. This is a regulatory process. It's a process of enforcing the law to ensure that buildings are safe, and as a result of privatising it, we've got a whole host of problems that are coming up now, and council is now having to deal with that, and that's a choice that was made by a state government many, many years ago, and we're seeing the results of it now. So that tells a story about privatisation and the fact that you really got to be careful about privatising important services like enforcement. So yeah, I'd like to thank officers, and I think hopefully we'll get a really good result from this review. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Amtran. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Look, I can only support and endorse the comments of both councillors, particularly Councillor Amtran in terms of privatisation and what's happened here. Very clearly, council gets the blame for most things that go wrong, whether it's a council responsibility or not. But the building system used to be the purview of council and was privatised. I think probably back in '94, if I have that right, around about the same time as amalgamations. So I'm sure, Jeff Kennett's love child, who's no longer with us, but was here for the last 4 years, left us later last year, would probably disagree. But privatisation often doesn't work out well for anybody. And the letter that's put together that I'll sign, endorsed by council, is a good one. There certainly has been many problems likely that I know, Moan Ward in Diamond Creek, the Rangeview estate. There's been many sort of really substandard buildings that have been erected that have caused all sorts of problems, and people buy these buildings off the plan, and they think that due diligence would be done. When something goes wrong, they come straight to council and think it's the municipal building surveyor who can rectify the issues. And invariably, when things go wrong, it's not the municipal building surveyor; it's a private building surveyor, which quite often do sign off the plans on the desk from places as far away as Mildura. They don't always hang around either, so you end up with this situation of orphaned building permits where it's hard to get anyone who wants to take responsibility for the approvals. So there's certainly a lot of recommendations here. It's a system that currently doesn't work well, and I think if we can put a bit more power to the arm of the local municipal building surveyor, it will certainly help. So we'll certainly endorse the letter and the direction here. So we'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? And it's unanimous. The next item, councillors, is the Inclusion Advisory Committee membership and terms of reference endorsement. Looking for a motion, and Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a lot there to read. I'll say as per the papers. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Payne. Councillor Eyre, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I do, thank you, Mayor. The Inclusion Advisory Committee provides a formal mechanism for council to consult with key stakeholders, and we have so many knowledgeable stakeholders in our community, and to seek specialist advice to enable community participation in the implementation of the Disability Action Plan, and to also to promote inclusion within our shire. I just wanted to say thanks to all who nominated and to offer up your time, and thanks to the inclusion team, Narelle Hart and the two Angelas, Angela Lampard and Angela Clare. They work tirelessly to promote inclusion within the community, and we will have 7 new members join the current 6, so that will be a total of 13 with this motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Councillor Payne, you wish to speak?
Just to say I'm in vigorous agreement with everything that Councillor Eyre has just said. Well done.
Any other councillor wishing to speak? Certainly, all 13 nominees were great nominations. That really good submissions put forward. Very hard to split any of them really, and so as a result, the panel has recommended that council endorse all 13 nominees. So nobody missed out this time, and that just speaks to the high calibre of all the applications, and it'll be a great committee, acknowledging that not always people can attend all committee meetings, so there's a bit of fat in the system, but that's what we need when we're dealing with volunteers and trying to work with them as best we can. So it was I was very honoured really to be able to be involved in the selection of those 13 nominees. So it was a really good process, and I thank officers for their work and indeed everyone who nominated. If there's no other discussion, councillors will put that motion to the vote, and it's all those in favour. Carried unanimously. The next agenda item, actually, I've got to declare a conflict of interest. So, as I spoke, is this the one? Oh, okay. We need to just back to the last item, the Inclusion Advisory Committee membership. We can have the mover read out the nominees.
Thank you, Mayor. Council endorses all 13 nominees: Diana Worrell, Rhonda Bain, Rael de Graaf, Neville Coote, Aisling McCabe, David O'Connor, Laura Black, Alison Stanier, Neil Allen, Helen Ryan, Inbar Niv, Lorna McRae and Ned Wilson, all appointed to the Inclusion Advisory Committee in the Inclusion Advisory Committee Nominations Recommendation Report.
Thanks, Councillor. And as I said, it was in keeping with the charter of the committee, to include everybody. 13 nominated, 13 got the gig. The next item, Tender Report Contract 2021/59, Essential Fire Safety Measures and Auditing Council Facilities. I'm declaring a conflict of interest. It's a general conflict of interest, potentially. I'm employed by the parent company of one of the tenderers, so it's so far from arm's length, it's not funny, but I certainly do feel more comfortable in stepping out of the room for this item. So I'll hand the chair over to Deputy Mayor Councillor Eyre, and if you could let me know when you're finished, and I'll come back in the room.
Councillors, we're looking at Tender Report, Contract 2021-059, Essential Safety Measures and Auditing Council Facilities. Councillors, do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to move, as per the papers, that Council accept the tender submitted by the preferred tenderer for the schedule of rates disclosed in Attachment 1 and enter into the following contract number 2021-59. It does go on a bit, so as per the papers for the rest of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Payne. Thank you.
Well, as has already been alluded to, this is a tender for our essential safety measures and auditing of all council facilities. It really isn't much more complicated than that. It's like most tenders, and it's been awarded, and they'll get on with it.
Councillor Payne. Any other councillors? Councillor Ramcharan.
I just thought it was worth mentioning that this isn't just a tender, well, it is a tender process, but the outcome of it isn't just business as usual. What we're looking at here is a new system for our essential safety measures and auditing. We're going to be implementing IT much better now. So as a web developer, I'm well aware that IT can really streamline a lot of processes. At the moment, we are using an enormous amount of paper. It's a system that is very messy and requires a lot of work from our staff. So this new system will be more simple, it will be cheaper and easier than the old system. And I can see Councillor Egan's pointing to her massive agenda on the table. We have a book like that in most council buildings that's used to audit checks on equipment like fire extinguishers. So we're eliminating that paper. We're likely moving to a QR code system, I believe, which will allow us to just have contractors who scan the QR code with a phone and put in the data, and it's all done automatically by a central system which integrates into the databases we have here at council. So it just better integrates everything, save paper, save time, save money, and it's a really positive step, and I'm all for using technology to improve the way we do things, so let's hope we have many more changes like this.
Thanks, Councillor Ramcharan. Anyone else wishing to speak? No. I'll now put the motion to a vote. All in favour? This motion has been carried unanimously. Councillor Egan, I'll get you to read the name of the successful tenderer.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. I nearly called you Councillor Egan then. It is very similar to the tender name. It is the... Need my glasses. I've lost it now. Oh, it's on the screen. Now I don't need my glasses. Essential Safety Solutions Australia Proprietary Limited, as per the rest of the papers.
Thank you. Could we please call Mayor Perkins back into the meeting? Do we have to? Thank you. I'll now give the chair back to the Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. The next item on the agenda is Tender Report Contract 2021/32, Provision of Immunisation Services. Looking for a motion, Councillor Ramcharan.
I'd like to move that Council accept the tender submitted by the preferred tenderer for the sum of blank, which I'm sure will be revealed, for the initial first year of contract plus annual CPI increases applied for the remaining years of the contract period, and enter into the following contract. Number 2021-32, title Provision of Immunisation Services, term 1st of July 2021 to the 30th of June 2024, options, term extensions up to 30th of June 2026. 2. Authorises the Chief Executive Officer to finalise and execute the contract documentation. 3. Authorises the Chief Executive Officer to approve contract term extensions. 4. Authorises the Chief Executive Officer to approve additional cost variations that are a result of changes to the National Immunisation Programme schedule requirements throughout the term of the contract. 5. Advises all tenderers accordingly. And 6. Makes public the decision regarding this contract, but the tender evaluation report in attachment 1 remain confidential on the grounds specified in the definition of confidential information in section 31G of the Local Government Act 2020.
Thanks, Councillor Ramcharan. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Egan. Councillor Ramcharan, back to you.
Not much to say here. This it is just a simple tender process and continuing business as normal afterwards, but I think it's just one example of the enormous amount of work that local governments do. It's not just roads, rates and rubbish. We have a whole load of other responsibilities as well, and providing free immunisations to our community is a critical responsibility of local government. So if you ever wonder where your rates are going, this is one of the many, many things we spend them on, and if you ask me, it's well worth it.
Thanks, Councillor Ramcharan. Councillor Egan, any other councillor wishing to speak to the motion? If not, I'll put the motion, or Councillor Eyre.
Yeah, sorry, my mask. Yeah, I was just going to say too that I believe that during COVID we've got a little bit of a baby boom as well. So again, this is again, this is even more important to have services such as these.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Grandchildren. Councillor, if there's no other discussion, councillors will put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Next on the agenda is Informal meetings of council's records, 25th of... Did I miss one? Oh, sorry. Back to the previous... Sorry again. We can let you know who the tender is. I'll ask Councillor Amtran.
So the preferred tenderer is Banyule City Council for the sum of $217,500, excluding GST.
Thanks, Councillor Amtran. Next item is informal meetings of council's records, 25th of May. Looking for a motion, Councillor Stockman.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that council accepts the officer's recommendation as per the papers.
Thanks, Councillor Stockman. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Egan. Councillor Stockman, do you wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Egan? No. Any other councillors wishing to speak? We'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Notices of motion. We have one notice of motion in the agenda. It's a proposed plan by Heritage Golf Club and Country Club to cull kangaroos on their property. And Councillor Ben Ramcharan has advised of his intention to move a motion. So over to you, Councillor Ramcharan.
I'd like to move that council notes the plans by Heritage Golf and Country Club to cull kangaroos on their property, to express our concern over the unnecessary killing of native wildlife, particularly in our Green Wedge and on the edge of Bend of Islands and the Warrandyte-King Lake Wildlife Corridor, and 3, authorises the Mayor to write to Heritage Golf Course and Country Club to A, express the above concerns, B, ask for the rationale behind the intention to cull kangaroos, and C, ask that the decision to cull kangaroos on the site be thoroughly reviewed with careful consideration given to non-lethal methods if population control really is necessary.
Thanks, Councillor Antran. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Stockman. Councillor Antran, speak to the motion.
Yes, so the Heritage Golf and Country Club is only accessible really from Chirnside Park, which is in Manningham. But what a lot of people don't realise is they have a bridge which crosses the Yarra, and their golf course is mostly within my ward in Sugarloaf. It borders on Bend of Islands and Christmas Hills and is right at the tail end of the Warrandyte-King Lake Wildlife Corridor. So Heritage Golf and Country Club have made the decision to cull kangaroos on their property. In recent times, the community has been outraged at this, and there have been a number of protests on the site, one of which successfully stopped the activity in its tracks. Heritage Golf and Country Club have so far failed to give a reason why they intend to cull kangaroos. It does seem like a strange decision to many, as a lot of people who use the golf course really enjoy seeing kangaroos on it. So you've got to wonder why they would want to remove those kangaroos. They haven't given any reason why they may why they want to do that. If it were for conservation reasons, if it were for a legitimate reason, then perhaps you would consider supporting it. But they haven't given a reason. There doesn't seem to be any recommendation on environmental grounds for why those kangaroos need to be removed. And it really is something that's concerning so many people who live nearby, people who love their wildlife, people who love our wildlife in our Green Wedge, native wildlife, and to know that that wildlife could be killed in a manner that's not always humane. Depending where the bullet hits, it can be a painful, awful death for some kangaroos. So it would be much better to consider other methods if kangaroos really do need to be removed from the golf course, such as fencing them out or relocating them. If non-lethal methods can be used instead, then that's something that Heritage really need to consider, and that's what this motion does. It's not asking them to outright not cull the kangaroos. What it's asking for is a rationale. It's expressing our concerns about the cull, and it's asking that, if possible, we'd like non-lethal methods to be considered, so as those kangaroos can go on living their lives and the community knows that their wildlife is safe and protected, which I think is a really important value for us as the Green Wedge Shire, that we love our native wildlife and we want to protect it wherever we can.
Thanks, Councillor Entran. Councillor Stockman, you speak to the motion.
I'd just like to add to that, being the Greenwedge Shire, we do obviously value very highly our fauna and our flora. And the one other golf, or the only golf course we have in Nilamic is at Yarrambat, and they too have a lot of kangaroos there, and it's really good tourist attraction. A lot of people do come out to see the kangaroos there, and seems to work really well at in Nilamic.
Thanks, Councillor Stockman. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Look, I'll just support the words of Councillor Amturin and Councillor Stockman. Certainly, as a child, I had relatives up at Anglesey, and they lived on Golf Links Road, just opposite the golf course there. And you're absolutely right, it was a huge tourist attraction, and probably still is. There were people that would otherwise not go anywhere near a golf course, but to see the kangaroos, and whether it was true or not, but certainly the urban myth at the time was that the kangaroos were very, very friendly to golfers. You know, as long as you had a golf stick in your hand, you could almost, you could approach the kangaroos. You could, they'd be lying there resting, and they'd be not concerned about golfers. Other people, tourists, they might run away. But it was certainly seen as a great asset to the golf course, and indeed to the area. It was a local attraction that okay, they ate a bit of grass, but it was beneficial to all. That's how it was seen down Anglesey, some years ago. Things might have changed, and I'd certainly be interested to know what exactly is going on and why. So very happy to support the motion put by Councillor Amturin. If there's no other councillor wishing to speak, we'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Carried. There are no delegates' reports. Councillors, supplementary and urgent business, none. Confidential reports, none. So that brings the night to a close. I thank you all for attending, and I'll close the meeting.